And I want to go now to Robert Litt, former Principal Associate Deputy Attorney General and the General Counsel for the National Intelligence Director. Also with me, Stephanie Grisham, former Press Secretary for then President Trump, and John Dean, former Nixon White House counsel. Thanks to all, John. So let me start with you and the document, one of the documents that we got today, right? In this, look, it's something we didn't have. More specific information on the potential offenses being investigated by the Justice Department. And let me say again what Sarah just said, that the Mar-a-Lago search was related to a violation of willful retention of national defense information. Also, to concealment or removal of government records and obstruction of a federal investigation. What do you think this means for Donald Trump, John?
Well, to me, what happens, and I agree with the others who've reached this conclusion, that it looks like Trump is not necessarily the target, but clearly at this point a subject of the investigation. In other words, you wouldn't have taken these extraordinary steps of a search warrant of a former president had he not been high on the list of needing to know. He's not being looked at as a witness. He's being looked at as somebody who was involved in the misbehavior. And we can't take it very far, but we can certainly take it that next step. I think that's pretty clear from these documents.
So, Bob, the big debate today was about the Mar-a-Lago search affidavit. We get that other document, right? But the affidavit itself, interesting that the judge there says he is inclined to release the affidavit, but a redacted version. He gives the DOJ a week to come back and says, look, you better prepare for it to go this way. Come with your suggested redactions. Be ready. Do you think this is the right call, Bob?
I think it probably is under the circumstances of this case. I mean, Attorney General Garland has already noted the important public interest in this matter. But I think the devil is going to be in what the Department of Justice actually proposes to be redacted. The most important thing to them is going to be to redact anything that could reveal the identity of a witness, not just the name, but anything that could lead somebody to conclude that this person was a witness. The second most important thing is going to be information that could indicate where their next witnesses might be, where they might be going in it. So there's a real possibility that at the end of the day, what we end up is a document that's full of holes and doesn't really tell you what's going on here.
So, Stephanie, Trump and his allies have tried to downplay all this, by this claim, right? They said, okay, whatever excuses they've given, they have eventually come to, well, okay, he has the documents, but it's all fine because he had a standing order to declassify them. So whenever he went home elsewhere in the White House, it was automatically declassified. So Jamie Angel, Sarah Murray, our team has made all these calls, and they report that 18 former Trump administration officials say this is total nonsense, complete fiction, bullshit. Those are the words, their words, not mine. Your reaction, Stephanie?
I feel like a broken record because I say this all the time, but, I wasn't surprised. This is another instance where the former president told a lie, and many, many, many people with national security clearances and with big titles such as the two chiefs of staff have come back and said it's not true. But the problem is Trump has no reason not to lie. He is backed up by Republican leadership, most of Republican people in office, and a lot of people running for office. The RNC is backing him, and he's fundraising like crazy off of this. So he's got no consequences to telling these lies, which is, it's just the same story over and over and over again.
Bob, we end up in this situation, though, and it is unprecedented, and it's not a precedent you want to change in terms of just putting affidavits out, right? That's not how things are done. And one of the
that's correct.
Yeah, one of the DOJ lawyers who's arguing against the affidavit coming out in any form, they say, look, if we put this out, it provides a roadmap to the investigation. It could reveal witnesses. It could compromise this investigation and other high-profile investigations. So, Bob, the question for you is, does that stand out to you, or is this the go-to argument that the DOJ would use in any case to keep something sealed? I mean, is this standard or is this special?
No, I think it signifies something in this case. And I think that go back to an earlier point you made, it does sharpen a little bit the focus on the president, the former president. We all know of instances which have been reported where there have been calls made to potential witnesses before the January 6th committee. We all know of instances where people who did testify were retaliated against. And so I think that there's a realistic concern here, not just a boilerplate, but a realistic concern that witnesses could be affected. I mean, if you know that your name may be released publicly, you're going to be less likely to come forward and tell the truth that you know you're going to be protected.
John, then where are we? Because if they're going to release the affidavit and they're going to suggest their redactions that they say would therefore protect those witnesses and protect other investigations, the Justice Department has indicated that would be nothing. It would just be a sea of black. There'd be nothing to read except for perhaps some prepositions or something like that. What do you think it will look like if we get a redacted version?
I think the judge wants to see what that would look like himself, and if it is totally a black sheet that the department feels is the only thing that can be released, he may push them in private discussions. They'll be, because we're talking about classified information and potentially high-profile witnesses, it'll be done out of the sight of the public and the media, obviously. But I think he wants to see how far he can push this to get a better public understanding of what's going on. That's what his disposition appears to be. I'm not sure there is much. I don't think that they're not going to release highly classified information, national security or defense information, and they're not going to release witnesses. So it's never going to satisfy the media and their curiosity, but it may wet their whistle much more as a result of this drill.
Yeah, and Stephanie, all of the outcome of this, and you mentioned fundraising, but that's what it's been, right? The fundraising figures, as we understand it, CNN learning that Donald Trump's PAC got more than $1 million in donations a day after the FBI search at Mar-a-Lago, and that was at least for the first few days. Dozens of emails have gone out to supporters about it, texts, and every other Republican signed up for those PAC distribution lists. Jim Jordan, everybody else, they've all been sending them out to fundraise. Are you surprised at all that this has been so successful?
Sadly, no. Again, broken record over here, not surprised. But, even having his attorney go and sit in the courtroom today and not actually say anything officially to the court that they want the affidavit released, it is all about PR for them. It is all about fundraising for them. It is about fact finding. I believe they want the affidavit released so that, again, they can try to figure out who near him is talking, but also so they can start crafting their messages about what, how they're wrong, how this is corrupt, all of the things that he does every single day. And he's quite successful at it, unfortunately, as we're seeing with the fundraising. And again, all of the people who are backing him up, not one person, it is astounding to me, has said, well, maybe we take a minute and look at this. The guy's under investigation, 6 different ways.
Yeah, it is pretty incredible. Thank you all very much for your time.